Hello, hello, and welcome. You're watching A Few Good Men. Let's have a conversation on a Friday. I would just like to take the opportunity to wish everyone on the live a wonderful good night and welcome. We'll give you opportunity to come on the live, share the live, hit the like button. Tonight we're going to have an interesting conversation. It's going to be a open space, a safe space where men can get to speak about issues that affect them with regards to the topic of masculinity. Um, I think I would waste no time, but I'll introduce my guest to bring them on and could get the show started. All right, guys. So like, share the live. It helps the channel to grow, and we appreciate you. All right. So my first guest definitely would like to. I would have introduced him differently, but on his request, he mentioned to me that tonight he's speaking as a man. His profession should let's leave that out of it, but he's speaking as a man here tonight. Let's bring in our Richie Maitland to the platform. Richie, how are you, my brother?
Hi, I'm doing all right, man.
Wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful. All
yeah.
right, my next guest, the Lions. He's an artist, visual artist, and very profound one indeed. I appreciate his artwork and his insight for having intelligent conversation as well. Let's bring onto the platform the Lions or Dennis Lyons. How are you, man?
Yeah, good night, everyone. I'm blessed for the time, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, greetings, man. We're not
Blessings,
hearing you.
blessings.
Remember to use your.
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry about that. As
All
I
right,
was
one.
saying, good night to everyone. Thanks for having me here, Colin, and big up to you, Richie. And look forward to this convo.
That's right. And I'm
All right.
I'm seeing you for the first time for the new year, so happy new year.
Yeah,
And
all the best, brother.
wonderful. And my next guest, all right, everyone knows him as Juice, the mixologist. He's an artist, a mixologist. I know he's a farmer. He's also an entrepreneur. Many different things. And I really appreciate him. Let's welcome Kellen, aka Juice, to the platform. Juice,
Hello,
how are
good
you
night, good
feeling?
night, good night. I'm good, man. Kind of tired, you know what I mean? But
I
I'm
know.
here.
Well, all right, guys. I really appreciate y'all being on this platform, and we could get the conversation started. I first would like to just let our guests know that you're looking at Let's Have a Conversation, or Convo for short. It's a new addition to our lineup at A Few Good Men, where we seek to diversify our social media content. Now, tonight, we really want to discuss the topic of masculinity, a man's journey to redefine who he is and what's his purpose here, especially in Grenada. Now, there exists an absence of intelligent discussion conducted by men about ourselves with regards to the topic of masculinity. People with progressive views, all agree that, it's time for the detoxification of what they described as toxic masculinity or toxic masculine traits. And they indicate that this is an essential pathway to gender equality. However, some conservatives will allege that charges of toxic masculinity is also an attack on a man's manhood, at a time when men suffer from many different challenges. Now, while there is no doubt in my mind that toxic masculinity exists, I do believe that the way in which we have come to talk about men and their masculinity has obscured the problem even further. Now, tonight, we will discuss this topic in an episode we'd like to call The Importance of Seeking Knowledge of Self, a Man's Journey to Redefine His Masculinity. All right, guys, thank you. Welcome to the platform.
Pleasure.
Again, guys, you're ready to have open, frank dialogue. This is a safe
Yeah, man.
space for us.
Yeah, for
No,
Okay,
sure.
so
certainly.
yeah, as long as we are not deflammatory, as long as we respect each other's opinion, we could agree to disagree. We could also challenge each other. This is a safe space just for us. So remember that open and honest, frank conversation. Let's get the ball rolling.
All right,
All
but
right.
we broadcast into the whole agreement here, though, so it's not quite just for us.
Okay, yeah, well,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Oh, certainly, yeah, definitely, definitely. Appreciate that. Thank you. I also wanted to alert the people in the comment section. Please feel free to chime in, share your views, ask questions. Just interact with us. We appreciate your feedback. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining and liking the page. We appreciate you as well. All right, guys, let's get the ball rolling. Now, like I said, this is not this is just us engaging each other. It's not really an interview, it's just a discussion. But I would throw out a question. Now, is there a clear roadmap for men in Grenada that clearly defines what our role and contribution to Grenadian society? Um, do we have a clear roadmap on that? And if not, explain why there isn't and how is that preventing us from knowing our roles in society? This is open conversation, but I'll start off with Richie. Richie, some words of opening comments on that?
All right. So I agree that there is no clear roadmap, but I think that there's no clear roadmap for neither women nor men. I think, and that might be because that gender roles are already shifting as they have over history. I don't think that there is a specific universal or even local role or local council that dictates masculinity for men or femininity for women, except that some men tell themselves that they have to head the household, for instance. I think there isn't a defined rule because masculinity and femininity is in a state of flux, and those are both constantly evolving according to place and time. So
Okay.
I think that's my take on it.
Okay. Could I get a take? Juice, what's your take on it? And as a man, growing up in Grenada, to navigate, your masculinity and your place in society, do you feel that you've had a roadmap, you had clear guidance? What is your take on that?
Well, I must say first, pleasant good night to everybody listening, and it's a pleasure to be here. Honestly, I must say that because even though we grew up in Grenada, everybody grew up in the same backyard, each household is different. There are households in Grenada that would put a lot of pressure on the men to be a certain way. They will tell you, okay, men don't cry, those kind of things. We grew up in a society where we have a lot of stereotypes and a lot of pressure is put on to men, right? So even as Richie alluded to, the woman, in this society, what we realize is that at a young age, we train our women to be mothers and housewives. We don't train them to be successful in life, to follow a career path. We really train them to be mothers. And then we train the young men to be outside day, as we might say, shata, the big man, you know what I mean? We kind of kill the emotions in our young men at a very young age, So I would say yes, that there are certain guidelines, but in a wider perspective, I would say no, because we realize that a lot of our young men go astray.
Okay. All right. Dennis, could I get your take on that?
Yeah. Well said, my brothers. In my humble perspective, I would have to say a yes and a no. And I would say yes, basically, as Richie was saying, it varies between community, varies between islands and those kind of things, right? And let's say a young man from, let's choose a parish, a young man from St. Patrick's and a young man from St. Andrews. He may have a certain role model or real model that he look up to in his community, or he may even have that in his household. So he may have a roadmap or somebody to look to, as a guiding figure moving forward in life. But that young man from St. Patrick, he probably had no father in his life. His uncle was, not the guy you want to look up to in any situation, and no other male figure in the community that, that he could take a page from, right? So that's the yes and the no side. But also from a country basis, on a Grenada Island basis, I personally don't feel as a young man there is a roadmap from a Grenada umbrella standpoint for young men in society that nurtures them into that masculine figure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. No, I know that for some reason, when we look at the debates regarding masculinity, it appears that men seem to stay out of the conversation. Now, when I'm asking here, this is an open space. Why is that? Is it that we're afraid to be ridiculed if we have strong views on it? And what are the implications of this in furthering the understanding of this important topic? So I'll bring it back to Richie.
All right, no problem. So there are in fact spaces opening up, including in Grenada, for men to have conversations with men and to heal. So for instance, there's the man-to-man program run by the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. So what often happens is that offenders in domestic violence cases can be sentenced to do the man-to-man program. And it's just men talking to men and trying to solve the problem of woman beating, essentially. But as to why men are not more involved in the general conversation beside that sort of context might have to do with a fear of lashback from cancel culture, which of course relates to the potentially problematic views that they may have concerning gender roles, which would invite the cancel culture in the first place.
Okay. I want to get Juice, I want to get your take on that. Are you afraid to engage in these types of conversations, or do you feel safe enough to express your views openly?
Okay, so now as an adult, I have healed. As a young man growing up, you realize that okay, there's a lot of censorship. A lot of young men don't know how to express themselves. And it goes back to the childhood traumas where shut up, hush your mouth, just go and do that, you're a boy, this, that. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I find myself guilty at times with my own son.
Speak about that.
This is a cycle. Mm-hmm. This is a cycle that a lot of people continue unconsciously. Okay, we have this thing in Grenada. Okay, that's what I grew up in, so that's what I know. So right. I am surprised to know, like what Richie's saying now, that there are forums for men to actually engage in these fruitful talks and have trashing out, coming and say what happened and get things off your mind, because we have a lot of broken men walking around this society, but because of our stigmas, because of the lock that we have on society, a lot of men are afraid to express themselves, and that causing a breakdown in relationships, on the workplace, at home, and in their personal lives, even with their friends. We have a lot of men that are afraid and just genuinely cannot express themselves.
Dennis, I know that, and Richie, I'm really appreciate that you mentioned the man-to-man program, because yes, I am aware of that. But what I'm talking about from in a broader context, like nationwide, I don't think we nationalize issues with regards to men, because we go through issues as well. We have dysfunctional behaviors that that we need to also look at ourselves in the mirror and try to address. But Dennis, I just want to get your take on it quickly before I move on.
Yeah, so in my humble opinion, right, I think it's a conversation of awareness.
Tell me, when you say awareness, explain. Yeah,
awareness in the sense that as men, right, because of how society have this stigma on us, and as Juice was saying, it's like you don't need to be like, you can't show that soft side of you, because it's like you're frowned upon, your peers gonna come at you, and it's just, to me, it's like there's a lot of hurting men out here for real, right?
Yes, let's be
And
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
there
there's
is.
a lot of hurting men, and to me, I was really surprised to hear Richie speak about, that initiative where men can come and express themselves. Because
Mm,
to be honest, if you don't really have a good virgin in your community or from school that you feel really trusted in to share certain things, and listen, this is between me and him, it was like you don't really go nowhere else. You keep that within you, that burden you down, that make you like a heavy ship on water. And every day is
Yeah.
like a fight to stay afloat. And as I say, be awareness in the sense that we need to speak about these things more, and we need to have these relevant conversations so that men can actually feel comfortable in coming out and being vulnerable. Because
mm,
vulnerability is not a bad thing.
mhm.
Because we need to be able to have that trust in each other. And I tell you this, and I show it between me and you. So I just think it's around awareness, and men need to know, like, yo, I need healing also. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Rich. Yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on some of the things that you just said.
yeah, definitely. I agree with everything he said. And the point that Juice made earlier that there are a lot of hurting men out there, men who need healing. But part of our masculinity, which I would consider a toxic aspect of it,
Yeah.
tells us that we just have to bear our crosses and hold it in and not discuss because there's this facade of strength that we're supposed to project in the world, you know? And sometimes, especially in a place like Grenada, where the context is small, it's probably 1 degree of separation between any two people. It's difficult to actually trust our brethren to see things. And I would
Okay.
wish that men consider other available options like therapy, for instance, like talking to a therapist and that kind of thing. A lot of men need therapy, and I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed to say that I do
Mhm.
therapy. I have a therapist and I do therapy sessions, and
Yeah.
it helps me with my emotional health.
Okay. Could I ask a
Yeah.
question here? Do any of y'all feel safe to be vulnerable, openly? And if not, why? Just being frank and honest. Do y'all? Because
Openly, open.
openly, yeah, to feel vulnerable. And do you think that you will be taken advantage of if you show that you're vulnerable? In
Listen,
our
Uh,
context, yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
There was one time I was on the block, and I'm chilling with my friends, and I say, "Yo, guys, I love all you."
What did they say? What was their response?
Man,
So you
the
can't tell your
man,
Yeah.
brethren you love him? Like,
No.
the man was like, "Juicy Mara, what you seeing, man? You know what I mean? What kind of thing you get on with there? You know?" And and that's part of the
Be
toxic
vulnerable.
masculinity that we're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
You
right.
know,
yeah,
men are afraid to show their feelings. They watch me. Just the way we use the word love,
Mm.
we will use the word love because we know that a lot of females are vulnerable when it comes to the word love, right? One of that, one of the causes for that is fatherlessness.
True.
A lot of females grow up in homes without fathers. So they don't know what it is for a man to love them in the real way, you know?
Okay.
So as they become adults, a lot of men suffer from that also. I grew up in a fatherless home, you know what I mean? So we have that cycle that brews in Grenada that makes men afraid to be vulnerable amongst their friends, even among themselves in their quiet time.
Yeah.
You
Mm,
know, that's why you will find that okay, because in society we try to train men to be a certain way, a lot of men will align themselves with a certain crowd at a young age, right? Listen, there's a wide cross section of guys who tried violence. You know what I mean? Find themselves with the most angry crowd at a young age. And getting older, they realize, listen, I'm more than that. You know, me getting into music made me understand that I am a creative, you know, and there are certain things that I just need to stay away from.
As a father, how is that affecting your relationship with your son? And Richie, I know you're a father as well. I know you would chime in. Dennis, do you have any kids? Not
No,
yet.
no, no.
Okay, well, yeah, no, you join the club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
honest,
but choose, yeah. On an
honest,
honest note, yeah. How is that affecting? Yeah.
honestly, that has affected me in a very tremendous way, and it is affecting me. This is something that I am dealing with right now. You know, I have a son, and sometimes many times, the stigma get the better of me. You know, the anger, the way you deal with situations, because I was never privy to that kind of fathership from anyone, you know. So basically what I know is me feeling inadequate in myself, you know, watching my siblings, watching the people I went to school with talking about their father, going and spend time with their father, and them kind of thing, and I feeling a lot of resentment within myself, you know. So my quiet place was actually anger.
Okay.
You know, so I had a lot of anger issues and still have a lot of anger issues sorting out in my personal life.
How did you
You
vent,
know,
and how is that affecting your relationship with your son? Yeah, that's what I wanted to get from you.
how I vent.
Yeah, how did you? Yes, how did you learn to vent at that young age, knowing that you had all this anger?
Well, actually, just learning to vent. Actually, just learning to speak about my childhood traumas. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And things that, you know, like when I sit now and I tell my mother the way I used to feel as a child. You know, she's like, I never noticed. You know, because we believe that we have to keep it in and we will fight it with a man and we go do this and we go do that. But no, we all need to speak to somebody. You know, I remember as a young man finding letters from my father. So I'm gonna say this, you know, my father is incarcerated and he's been in there for as long as I have been alive. So I am
Okay.
35, he's been inside it 35 years. Right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
I remember as a child finding a letter that my father wrote when I was just able to read. And I read that letter and I cry, like I cry. Why? I really cry because I was like, oh, so this is why I don't have a father. You know what I mean? And these are things that people in the family space need to expose them children to at an early age. Because I could say as a young man, growing up, I had a lot of questions. And most of the time I felt like if there were nobody there to answer them. So I just dealt with it quietly. So
Okay.
no, having a son makes me think back and realize that some of the things I am doing now, you know, will affect this human being when he gets to my age. So I'm now trying to fix that. I am not trying to show him, okay, yes, you know, daddy angry, you know, this, that, but come on, you know, there's more to daddy than this, you know. So I'm trying now to show him that love inside, you know, speak to him in that kind of way and actually have conversations with him, you know what I mean?
Okay. Okay, Richie, and Dennis, I would get to you, but Richie, as a father, sharing some of the sentiments, the comments, sorry, that Juice made about his life experiences. I mean, how looking at yourself and how you grew up, and now being a father, and could you relate to what Juice is saying, or some of the things that he's saying?
Yes, a lot, but there were differences for me. You know, my dad had always been home and had always been a provider. But he was never ever really a physically loving man. So honest to God, I don't remember ever getting a hug from my dad in my entire life, you know? So it was that kind of scene. And there's no way to absolutely establish the effect that might have had on me, you know, but child psychologists tend to see that that has an effect on a child, which might manifest in certain ways as an adult. So with my son, what I try to do is just give him a lot of love. I hug him up, I kiss him up a lot. You know, we read stories, I have honest conversations with him. We cook together. We do different things, and I really want to afford him that opportunity because I think that's important to the growth of men. That's part of why we have men doing some of the messed up things that we do. The vast majority of violent offenders, for instance, are men. And I think it's really because a lot of us never get love as children.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll get to the toxic masculinity aspect in my next question. But I really just want to flesh out this. Dennis, before I go to you, I will just really give my experience. So, I give it openly because this is what I experienced. My mom died when I was about 7 years old. She died of cancer. And my dad died probably when I was 19. And it was living with him, it was torture, right? He literally used to starve us, kick us out of the house. He was very verbally abusive. And the environment in itself was just toxic. And I hated him for it because he never took care of us. And I remember on his dying bed, being young and ignorant and angry, I remember saying that, I've had enough of you. Time, just go. I don't care about you. Just go. And I remember I was told, look, you have to forgive him because that forgiveness is not for him. That forgiveness is for you. And if you don't do that, then you're gonna, have a life of misery, and there would be a void that would be not, wouldn't be able to fill. But hard-headed, young, I said, I don't care. I'm going down with my boots on.
Yeah.
After he died, and years after, is when I realized the mistake that I made. I understand. So I could really relate to some of the things. I mean, not in exact like Juice. Your father's incarcerated. It's different, but still there's some similarities there. So Dennis, I'm sure you would probably want to chime in. What's the relationship
Sure.
like with your dad, and how did that shape you?
All right. So let me put this in a very brief
Yeah,
state.
brief and
Right.
yeah.
So in my household, I used to live with my mother and my father, right? And I got the love from my mother as a mother would give. You know, my dad was always present physically, but emotionally he was never really there.
Okay.
And to be honest, before all this lovely paintings and so on, I used to be painting some dark artwork, like really dark stuff. People
Okay.
sitting like just with a big question mark in front of them, and like just many questionable art. If you really look at it as a therapist, you would say like something is going on in this young man's head, and I was always seeking out answers, because I've learned if you want better answers, you need to ask better questions, and there was nobody that I really could have turned to as a male figure growing up to get better answers. So I had to turn within, to be quite honest. And it was at that moment, despite my father being there physically, I didn't get that love. But to be honest, I realized there was a lot of other things influencing my perception of him. This is why he didn't open up to me as probably he would have liked to. And I also realized that the love that I wasn't receiving from him wasn't something of his personal situation. Probably could have been he didn't receive the love, so the generation thing continued. So
Okay.
with all that being said, you know, it's like being in that dark place helped me to find this vibrant art, and it just helped me to go within. And now I know, despite I'm not a father figure, I could put myself in that future pro- pros- projection of who I need to be because of what I lack, So
Growing up.
yeah, it's just a humbling story. I had to deal with it. To be honest, it's a continuous process. And I could sit here to say today and say like I have love for my father despite everything because that experience growing up shaped me to be who I am today. And we just need to deal with it as young men. Like forgiveness is not for us, and we could
Yeah.
have an open conversation today, me and my father, and it's not the
Okay.
best as I would
Right.
like it to be, but I need to be who I need to be for when my youth come forth. Yeah.
I
Listen, I
Yeah.
appreciate
some of
that.
the things I just say, some of the things I just say. There was one time I'm sitting in the bedroom because I'm a guy. I really like to be alone. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I spent a lot of my childhood days, just being alone. I just like to be in my own space. You know what I mean? And two things that happened that kind of further pushed me into that kind of. And there was one time I was sitting in the room, I was doing my own thing, and I heard my son voice in the background. I heard my mom voice in the background, and I was like, I spend most of the time inside this room when I'm home. I don't even interact. And and the same thing that you said, I say I'm here physically, but like emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like there are certain things that my son will tell my mom that he won't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And that really plays on my mind a lot. You know, like right now I'm trying to figure out how can I get on, as you might say, good side. My son does tell me he love me. I just tell him I love him too. He knows that. From since the time he started to live with me, I always say, boy, I love you. I always reinforce that in him. But the emotional support that he really needs, I ain't gonna lie to tell you, I'm guilty of not giving him that. Because to me, I just don't know how.
Yeah.
So
If I could,
I could
Wow.
understand, way the way your father used to behave. Like you saying that no, I actually hear another person say that makes me understand, okay, this is where I'm at right now. And
Mm.
my son is young, so I have a chance to actually correct that. You know what I mean? So this program is very therapeutic also because
Appreciate.
is the importance of seeking knowledge of self and
oh,
speaking with young men in my in my spectrum
Mhm.
really shedding a lot of light right now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I wanna
Yeah.
say, if it's okay, I wanna say this
No.
real quick, right?
Yeah.
To Juice, to Richie, to you, Colin, and myself, and everyone viewing in,
That's right.
mother or father. Here's what. This is what I have learned along my process, right? It's more important what you live in a child than what you live for them. It's more important what you live in a child than what you live for them.
Explain that a
You
bit more,
know,
please, for us.
like to be honest, you may tend to live a car, a house, piece of land for a child, and yo, they're glad for it. They're really happy that mommy lived that. But 30 years from now, I think it would be more fulfilling within yourself if you are wrong or you're not wrong, that child could say, you know what, mommy and daddy taught me this moral, this code, this conduct, this value. They give me. If it wasn't for mommy or daddy, I wouldn't have made such smart or intelligent decisions. So it's much more important what you live in your child and for your child or children.
Okay.
Yeah.
If, if I would just comment quite briefly. Oh, but Richie, you have anything you want to chime in
What
on? Yeah.
I could go after you, it's fine.
Oh, okay. No, I really just wanted to say, Goose, I appreciate, guys. I really appreciate. Even the comment section is showing appreciation for our honesty and openness, and I think it's very therapeutic. I see Akisha Felix is saying, Juice, you need to get in touch with your emotional side. My son's father is the same way. So I'm not sure if you can see the comment section, but
No, we
yeah.
can't. I can't
Oh,
see
you
it.
you can see it. All right. Well, I would find a way to post them so you could get to look at it. But
Yeah, I
anyway,
was wondering what's going on in the comment section.
no, I'm just letting you know. But yeah, back to what I was saying. It's strange, right? Because my father did not take care of me growing up, and in his dying stages, I was the one that took care of him. And I also took the opportunity to take out my anger on him as well, being a fragile, old man. And this is something I have to live with as well. But I had a lot of anger. But funny enough, after his death, one of my ex-girlfriends said to me, your dad did indicate to me that, he loves you. And I was like, what? My dad loves me? I'd never heard that man say that. Not a hug, not a kiss, nothing. He was cold. And I'm saying, he told you that and he couldn't find the strength in himself to tell me? She said, well, I tried to tell you that your dad loved you, but you didn't want to hear it because you were so stubborn.
It's
And that was
hard.
after he died, I found out that. But just to close off in what I was saying, it's funny that even though he did not teach me direct skills or didn't teach me directly, indirectly, I learned from him because he was a hard worker. He was, well dressed. He was a businessman. There's a lot of things that I've learned from him indirectly than directly. And I also have to show appreciation for that too as well. Richie, if you...
Yeah, so I suppose I have two sets of comments.
Yeah.
In relation to my dad, there are definitely a lot of things I've learned from him indirectly. He's very principled, and that is something I try to aspire to. What I found is that as much as he wasn't physically comforting or loving as a child, when I was a child, both of my parents, including him, have sort of really softened in their older age. I can't really say old age, you're not old.
Yeah.
And I see the way they interact with my son, and I see, how come I didn't get that,
Boy.
Oh boy.
That's a mystery. That's a mystery of being a grandparent. We will not understand until we have grandkids ourselves.
Kids ourselves, huh?
Yeah, but I'm happy for it. I'm happy for it, and I think part of the softening is not being able to treat my son really good. Is also just, I don't know, softening to me as well. And I have also, because now I'm an adult, I've learned to appreciate the sacrifices that they would have made in life for me, despite the fact that there were many times I would have been angry at them. I understand life a bit better now, and they definitely would have made some sacrifices. So, the relationship is actually really improving. My father has really started to show up for me, shows his love, and he's still not that guy to hug me, but
You're covered.
if I'm in a jam and I need some money, he go sort me out.
He go sort you out.
If you cook a nice food, you call by itself and come up and eat,
Yeah. Oh man, I appreciated that. But before I get into my next question, in terms of just crying, I know that men, we are afraid to cry, and I remember I'm guilty of it. And in Richie, in the mere fact that you mentioned about therapy, I realized that I used to always say that I don't really have much emotions, and I don't express it, and not realizing that I am expressing it, but I'm expressing it in a different way. One of the things that I've learned through therapy is that I'm storing a lot of stress and anger and tension in my muscles.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not showing any emotions, like my muscles is actually taking on that, that strain. And I always used to get this crick in my neck, and I used to wonder, well, what is it? Not realizing all of that. Yeah. So my question is, in terms of just being able to cry, like, do you feel comfortable crying in front of maybe your partner or your friends, or and have you taken the opportunity to unwind and cry, release?
Yes, but that has only come recently, right? So let me tell you, I distinctly remember when I was in secondary school, and I get licks from one of my parents, and I just make up my mind I ain't crying after that. right? And literally, I lost the ability to cry, right? That happened for years and years and years. I was literally unable to cry. Sometimes I wanted the release, that cathartic feeling that crying brings, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. All right, but I would say probably in the last year and a half, including just through a therapist intervention, I've actually been able to get it, man. Sometimes I bawl, real nasty bawl, snort and all kind of thing, But I think that's important for
That's
us.
important.
Yeah,
It is.
true.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Juice,
Growing up, man, being a teenager, early 20s, and just thinking about how it was for me, and think I cried. Yeah. I mean, when I'm with my friends never see that side because this is juice. You know what I mean? When I'm in town, there are a lot of people that come up to me and say, Juice, you look very unapproachable, You know what I mean? And to me, that was okay. Like, I would shrug it off, what you But inside, like, I say, boy, this person don't know how gentle I am, boy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we just have this facade.
When last have you cried, Juice? When last have you cried?
Well, to be honest, it's been a very long time.
Why?
It's been a very long time because a lot of the things that I had bottled up inside of me, I kind of released them.
How?
Yeah.
Speaking to my mom.
Okay.
Speaking to my mom, when I really sit down with my mom and I tell her certain things, and she was like, "Yo," and I just cried. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I just cried in front of my mom and thing. You know what I mean? And it was that. Listen, let me tell you something. I love my dogs. The last time I cried, I'll be honest with you. The last time I cried, I was in GSPCA in December. I had to put my dog down.
Oh, jeez.
My dog was got sick. He had leptospirosis, and I had to put my dog down. And I really cried. The doctor who was going to give the dog the injection, she cried. You know what I mean? As they say, we both crude. Yeah. Big long tears. Big long tears. People come in and watch me like, what going on with this big strong man? What's he crying over? You know what I mean? But I cry, man.
Yeah, man. Nah, this is therapeutic, man. I appreciate it, guys.
For sure.
This is therapeutic.
I'm a Pisces.
Okay.
I'm a Pisces. I'm very emotional.
Okay.
Look, Juice, we had similar experience with the dog, man.
Dennis,
me too.
Yeah,
me too.
In 2018, I had a dog called Golden, man, and watch me. That dog was like, that dog was everything, man. That dog would protect you. You can't cross the line to step in the yard. And that dog got a heartworm. And I made like 3 trips to GSPCA to get, that injection. And one time my cousin told me, listen, the way the dog weak, probably you could give it the medicine, but it may kill it. And watch me, I sat there, right, and I gave the dog the medicine, and the dog started coming back. And then all of a sudden, the dog just started gasping. That dog passed away in my hand, and watch, my girlfriend wasn't there, but I cried. And I had to dig the hole to put the dog in. Me alone, watch, I cry. Trust me, man. It's a love, man. It's a love.
Yeah, it's a love.
Yeah, it's a love.
Yeah, it's a love.
Look,
boy.
we're smiling here and we're giggling, but look, this is just love. This is not like ridiculing anybody or making you feel bad. This is just love, man.
So, Colin, to answer your question, to answer the previous question directly, if I'm afraid to be vulnerable in front of people, You
Yes.
should realize that no, I'm not
No,
afraid to be
good,
vulnerable.
good. No,
You know
no,
what I mean?
like I said,
Yeah, well, I would say it
Listen,
depends on who people. Yeah, I don't know who you
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
vulnerable in
yeah.
front. You
True.
Well,
understand?
listen. I'm
Yeah.
vulnerable right now, practically in front of the wall right now.
with the wall right now, this is a few good men.
Right,
Yeah.
true.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I don't know if you would, for instance, cry in this forum necessarily for the
Hey,
world to
look,
see.
look, Richie, look. Let me be honest. To be honest, when I was speaking about my dad just now, I feel a little tingle in the
Yeah,
eye.
yeah.
Yeah. No, look, the eye can of the water a bit. And then
Yeah.
y'all mentioned
Nah.
about dogs. Look, y'all mentioned about the dog. Imagine, right?
Bro, look
So
for
at
my
one
look for
time,
my page.
oh,
Look for my page.
okay.
Juice,
Ricardo
you can
Juice,
mute.
Juice.
WAHD.
That, all right, I'll mute
Juice.
Juice. I'll mute him. I'll mute him when he comes
Okay.
back. But yeah, thinking back, I lost my dad. I was homeless, and on top of that, my dog died. Imagine that. So
Ooh,
that was
all
like a
of a
double.
sudden.
All of a sudden, yeah, everything just happened one time. So I remember, yeah, boy, I tell you, this life, and as a man, you try to navigate and be strong, but this
True.
it's not healthy. And
Yeah.
I realized that I had a breakdown a few years ago. And I just like Richie said, big, fresh, cool. Like I
Yeah.
cried for all the things that I couldn't cry for, including my
Years
mother.
ago.
Years ago, I cried for years. Well, no, sorry. I cried about all the years that I couldn't. It was amazing. But Juice. All right, so let me just put him back.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'd
So
mute you because you're speaking. So
Oh, sorry.
yeah. But you're
Yeah.
back now. That's right. You're back on. You're good. So guys,
But
I want to move into
crying is
the
healthy, man.
yeah.
Crying is healthy.
I wanted to make a point, but before you
No,
move
no,
on,
no, 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 no,
if you'd
no. By
allow
all
me.
means, make a point. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
the point is, I think this conversation is important because not a lot of
Yeah.
men would admit that they've cried over their dog.
Yeah.
I have cried over my dog too. Right when I was in secondary school, I had a dog called Daisy, a German Shepherd,
Oh
Ooh.
boy.
and she had gotten poisoned. All right. So she was dying essentially. I called Father Sean the priest and all to come and pray over the dog.
Wow.
Yes, like I couldn't take it,
Mhm.
but thankfully she survived. Like she really reached
Oh.
close to death, but she actually made it. I stay up whole night and give that dog sugar water. And
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man.
Boy.
Good. So I want to move into my next question, right? My next question: how does a social pressure to be a man, and I'm just have that in brackets here, influence aggressive behaviors? And have you ever experienced a situation where your manhood has been challenged, whatever that situation is? You want me to say over the question, repeat the question, or we're anyone willing to take that question first?
Yeah, just repeat the question.
All right, so I'll repeat it again. All right. So now, how does social pressure to be a man, and that's in bracket here, influence aggressive behaviors? And have you ever been in a situation where your manhood has been challenged? Right? That's the question.
I mean, growing up as a man in this society, a man is tested every day.
Tell-
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Listen, to me, I was just speaking about that with my friends here. I think that we have a narrative for men right now, like a universal narrative for men, that men are supposed to be a certain way, like in this present dispensation of time, right? When you look at social media, you realize that there are a lot of forums that are propagated by women who have very strong views on how men are supposed to be. And unfortunately, a lot of these women are successful women. A lot of these women are public figures. So when people subscribe to these women and they listen to them, they take the notion, okay, this lady knows what she is talking about. But this lady has no idea what it is to be a man.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So we have the manhood being tested regularly. You know what I mean? Not just on social media, but in real day. You know?
No, in your social setting, in your social setting, yeah,
Yeah.
in your community, I wouldn't.
Well,
Could you give us an experience? that you've had, where
Well, no, I can't pinpoint that like right now.
Okay, all right.
I
You
would
could,
like to
Dennis,
speak to that.
you want to speak to that? All right, continue.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, right, I gave up on drinking alcohol because I get to realize like I put in this thing in my body and I don't feeling good about it. So I rather drink a coconut water every day. But in that time when I used to drink, sometimes you might meet up with your coworkers or virgins after work. And if you decide, listen, I do drinking a beer today, buy me a malt. Like everybody jumping down your throat. What do you mean? You're getting weaker? Are you drinking a malt? You're a CC. What happened to you? And it's like that kind of peer pressure really breaks us mentally because you might decide, you know what, I'm making a change for the better. And I'm not gonna drink alcohol for the next 6 months, whether you're doing a detox, whether your doctor tell you to drink no alcohol because you're on meds. And when you go around your friends and you decide and you let them know, here's what, nah, I cutting off on the beer or cutting back on this, they make you feel like you weak as a man. So then they tap into your mind in a sense that we know that because you want to feel accepted and validated by them, you drink that beer when you consciously made that decision. You're not going to go that direction. And then you going home now and you have to deal with you in your quiet time. So you breaking down on your self-esteem and then self-doubt creeping in and all these kind of things. So yes, we experience that on a daily basis. And some men are afraid of standing their ground and like, listen, I say no and no is what it is. Whether it be to your friends, whether it be to your co-worker, like you need to learn to stand your ground as a man amidst all the social pressures that we undergo every day. Yeah.
Richie?
Well, in
No.
just before you say like as to what you were saying, like in my social space, what I have done to eliminate that from my life is find like-minded people. Like I really condense the people who I spend time with. You know what I mean? I used to be the person. Okay, a lot of people know me, but like the people who I would spend quality time with, it's a very small handful of people. You know what I mean? And when I tell them, bro, this is what I'm gonna do. Everybody's like, yo, juice. Yeah, well, if you want to do that, bro, we supporting you. Like for the year, I stopped smoking. You
You
know what
stop
I
smoke?
mean?
Okay.
Yeah, and I tell my friends that, and they were like, well, bro, you know what you have to do. You know how
Good
you feel it.
friends. Good
You know what I
friends.
mean? So, bro, and none of them is like, choose hola boy, come on, let me. No, they know that I right now stop, and they support that.
So you're not succumbing to social pressures. All right, Richie, you want to chime in here?
Yeah. So I think in Juice's case, his immediate friend circle would be good friends, but beyond that circle, I think that there is definitely a pressure, for instance, for somebody who doesn't wish to drink alcohol to drink. That has happened to me before where I say I want a water and people say, oh, I'm saying, man, take a beer. I'm literally saying I want a water, but they're buying a beer against, my wishes. So that's definitely a thing. And so I wanted to kind of list some
Please.
realities, some statistical realities, right? Men are much more likely to be alcoholic and to be drug addicts. Part of the alcoholism, and we have high rates of alcoholism in Grenada, I think, is because your ability to drink and hold your alcohol is a part of a right to manhood. So it's directly tied into masculinity in that way. Men have vastly higher rates of suicide.
Suicide.
I think that's because of the specific things we have told ourselves that we need to do or achieve, and how much more important certain things are to us than to women. So when a man doesn't achieve certain things or can't provide, let's say, to give an example, it's much more easier for him to just say, because there is that societal pressure to be a particular way. Men fill the jails. Let's put it like that. So there are probably 400 and something men in jail and 1 or 2 maximum women, right? So that's to show you we're way more capable and way more probable to commit violent crimes. We are the majority of violent offenders. So we certainly have aspects of ourselves that we have to deal with. There are certainly aspects of negative, or some might call it toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And some of it comes from certainly societal pressure, because a boy is socialized into being a man, So there's, for instance, dancehall music, Vibes Cartel telling him, what being a man is, that not everybody has the sort of parental presence that can curb the influences that invariably children will be exposed to. And I suppose my last point is that social pressure often comes from women, because some women in themselves have internalized what it is a man is supposed to be. And so they police that along with the rest of society. So that is my contribution to it, really.
I appreciate that. The mere fact that you mentioned about suicide, I'm very concerned with regards to suicide, not just globally, but right here in Grenada, we're seeing it. I want to just piggyback off something that Richie said, and I want to ask a question. When we speak about, dysfunctional ways that we express our manhood with regards to domestic violence, right? Now I'm just going to give a scenario, because I know a lot of cases like that. Not all the cases are like that, but I know a lot of cases that are exactly like that, where a man is emasculated out in the environment, and in order to assert his manhood or to reaffirm his manhood, he would come home and he would take it out on his wife as a way of showing dominance then. I just want to get y'all take very briefly on that, particular situation and other ways that we exude manhood in a toxic way. So I'll just have y'all just give a few comments on that, and then we'll take questions. Yeah. So, Richie, you want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. The very first thing I want to see, and this is to every man living in Grenada, is that domestic violence is never justified in any context. So whatever happens to you out in the world, you come home angry, you're never justified in hitting your wife. Which is funny. The UNDP, I believe, did a study in 2014 where, among other things, the instrument they used to capture information asked, for instance, what circumstances would justify beating a woman. And a surprisingly large amount of people actually said, for instance, like not cooking and, for horning and them kind of things. So I just want to make it plain that it's never justified. One thing I would like to see change is that you often see programming which is targeted at women who tend to be the majority of victims. So, what to do to make yourself less vulnerable, etc., etc. But there isn't sufficient programming which is done for the primary or majority perpetrators, which is men. So, I mean, is men doing it? Is men killing women? Is men beating women? I think there's an issue there that needs to be addressed. So there needs to be more programming on that.
I agree. Quick comments from Juice and Dennis. And definitely we have some questions in the comment section, so I would like to read them and put them up after you respond to this. Okay, so very briefly.
Okay, listen. I think that we have a lot of causative factors for domestic violence. Contrary to what a lot of people might believe, I do believe that religion shares a big part in that. The way men are groomed to take possession over a woman, over a woman whole being, that reinforce this notion of toxic masculinity, that you actually own a woman. You know what I mean? So when let's say, for instance, a woman goes outside there and she hasn't got no emotional support, no love and whatever from her husband, and something happened outside and she ended up faltering. This man now feels that this woman betrayed him, right? And because she is his property, he has to now teach her a lesson. You know what I mean? And bro, I had to reinforce what Richie say. Domestic violence is never the answer. I could boast and say that I have never raised my hand on a woman,
Ah,
in any
that's right.
relationship.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? I don't believe in it. One of my favorite rappers, Lloyd Banks, said, never keep a caged bird. You know what I mean? Let it free. You don't have to beat somebody to put your dominance over them. You
Okay.
know? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dennis, quick comments, brief.
All right. So, well said to my both fellow brothers there. I humbly think, right, it's a conversation of communication, you know, um, because to me there is a void between, being tough and being emotional, and men don't like to show that emotional side. So in that sense, now when we feel misunderstood by our peers or a woman, whosoever it is, we tend to, lash out and we wanna, affirm that dominance within that situation. And if I'm to share this story real quick, there was a book that I read, and it went like this, right? And that's to build on the point of communication, right? The book went like this. There was this husband and wife, and the husband went off to war, and he spent 3 years away. When he came back home, his son was always saying, um, mommy and daddy cry together. When mommy sit down, daddy sit down. When mommy turn away, daddy turn away. And the man was really worried about it. He was wondering, well, I've been away for 3 years. How is it that my son telling me, daddy has been there and mommy and daddy cry together and hug each other? Because of the lack of communication, the husband started treating the wife in a certain way. Then, because the wife wasn't getting the love from the husband, she ended up going and commit suicide. And because the communication wasn't there, all that led to that situation of her committing the suicide, right? Um, then one day the young man and the father sat down, and the young man told his father, so what mommy used to do when she light the candle in the corner, she would go and speak to the wall because she missed him so much, right? So that shadow, her shadow, she predicted that to be her husband. So when she cried, the shadow would cry. When she sit down, the shadow would sit down. When she walk away, the shadow would disappear. And because that man didn't ask any question to the wife, there was a miscommunication which led to suicide. So I firmly believe it's communication has a big part to play. And on both sides of the spectrum, men and women, we need to understand and know how to communicate better with each other, as communication heals everything. Yeah,
Okay.
if that
Um, I,
answers the question.
okay. So I definitely want to take the opportunity to engage our viewers in the comment section. And there's a question. I'm sure there are others, and we will get to them. So I'm seeing here from Wint. I hope I get that last name correct. While society expects men to be a certain way, who determines? And I'll put it up on so you guys can see. All right. So while society expects men to be a certain way, who determines what those standards should be? All right, question mark. And what has society done to help shape men to be what society expects them to be? I'm not sure if anyone, you understand the question, or you see it on the screen. It's right there. Okay. Anyone want to take that?
Well,
Richie.
who society? We 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 have the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's all of us. You know what I mean? We are society. There's no secret set of people who orchestrating the way a man's supposed to be. You know, this is us. This is us now projecting onto our men, onto our young men. What are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing? That's right.
You know what I mean? So just basically when your son come from school and you say, you was in a fight today, who hit you? I am bossy face. That is toxic masculinity.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
I agree.
You of us? So at
agree.
the end of the day, we need to do better as a society.
I'm not sure if anyone else have any comment, but there's another question. So
I think a lot of men need to look within themselves, you know, and see yourself, see a better self in you. Because to be honest, it's like a lot of us going through trauma, and a lot of us are actually living the traumas that our parents and grandparents would have passed on to us.
That's right.
So with that awareness now, you need to know that okay, your present situation is not you, or what you experienced in the past is not you, but you need to hold a vision of who you want to be, not just for yourself, but for the younger ones to come. So I think it is not based on society on a whole, but if we individually play our part, you know, and we strive towards that better self, then we would have the younger ones upcoming looking at a better standard to go by.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just say that, you know, I wouldn't discount the power of social pressure. I mean, a boy literally learns what it is to be a boy from what he sees around him, from what is punished, which of his behavior is punished, which is rewarded, and the same for a girl. So I think societal pressure is extremely important in the formation of boys, girls, men, women. No, my thing is, I agree that there is no secret council that determines what a man should be, but it's society. But that also changes based on location and time. So, for instance, I recall a time in the earlys when men wearing earrings was a very taboo thing. You know, there were certain associations made with it, and that has completely changed. You know, I also know that in places like Punjab, for instance, men hold hands and take strolls down the river, and it's non-sexual. Whereas if that happened here, it would be considered unmasculine in that sense. You know, so it's evolving, but at any given time is determined by which society you're in and when.
Okay, so you definitely answered the question that Mr. Richards asked. There's another question, but we dealt with that just a little bit earlier, where we mentioned about, you know, as fathers, we don't tell our sons that we love them. So there's a question here. Why is it that some men are afraid to tell their kids they love them, but give them everything they ask for? What you think could be the cause of that? So essentially the question is that we don't tell our kids that we love them, but we give them all the material things to comfort them. Just quick comments on that.
Well, honestly, this is okay. This is something I have learned from my experience.
Put the mic up to you.
Oh yes, I want to see this real quick because this is something I have learned. Right, we can to move forward. We can have the point your finger, blame game kind of
That's right.
situation in relation to our parents, because the truth is you can't give what you don't have, and a lot of our parents didn't receive, you know, the love that they didn't give. But this is the conversation now where we become aware of the way forward. So I personally think that, you know, this is the gap. We're bridging the gap right now through this program, through communicating like that, through sending this word, song, and power out there. So I personally feel that this is the way forward, and we need to don't blame our parents for what they didn't give, but we need to make that improvement moving forward.
Yeah, our listener had to learn the hard way too as well.
I will say this, that the partners that we have kids with, we don't take enough time to know them. you know. We have kids with people that we don't even know. We barely know. You know what I mean? We don't even have that bond. So if what the viewer is talking about is what I will call compensation. The man does not know how to express that love other than giving the child things. That's how he believes that when he, okay, if the child have to go to school, you always have money to give the child. If the child needs shoes, you always have money to buy his shoes. If the child want to do this, but he cannot express that love by saying, I love you. Right? Sometimes no. This man has been dealing with traumas from childhood, abandonment issues and all them kind of things. Men do go through that. And that's the kind of thing that we need to expose in the society, that men do go through abandonment issues. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we need, before we go into intimate relationships with people and have children and all them kind of things, we need to know the people that we have in kids with. When I say know, that means you have knowledge of this person. You know this person. You know that this person been through certain things. So you can now talk to your child and say, boy, you know, though that's the way your father is, you know, because, and you might be able to now alleviate certain of these things that your child might be missing inside. The emotional comfort that the father is not able to give, you might be able to let that child understand by the way you communicate with the child.
Okay.
And that's part of good co-parenting also.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rich, you have any?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it relates to the fact that part of the expectation on a man is to be a provider rather than necessarily an emotional supporter in that sense.
Nurturer? Okay.
They are nurturer.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is dominance. You know, we have a particular view of how parent-child relationships are supposed to be in the Caribbean. And I think a lot of parents feel that telling a child you love them or showing them an affection might potentially diminish the child's respect for them, you know, which is nonsense. But I know that people actually believe that. I also think that people treat daughters and sons differently. So with daughters, for instance, for men, you know, especially, it's much easier to be loving in that way. Whereas with a boy, he feels okay, he has to be tough, you know. So I can't be that affectionate to him, you know. So I think that's something to consider as well.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely believe that. I want to use this opportunity, the next 15 minutes, as we look to, you know, to sum up the conversation. We have to talk solutions. All right. So we understand the problem we're facing in Grenadian society. We see the reflection that men are falling behind. We see that in the CPEA results. We see that it also reflective in the prison numbers. And we see it every day in our society. Let's now talk about some solutions. And like I said, I'm just throwing it out there. One of the things I believe that we need to do is, one, we have those conversations and do it on a national stage, on a platform that not just in our circles, because, you know, as men, we normally want to talk in barbershops, talk in a rum shop, right? We vent, but we don't want to go public with it and have a national conversation. So that's one. But what are the other ways that we could create that safe space that will encourage men to come out and speak and to actually take action to repair our dysfunctional nature? So just an open. I don't know who wants to chime in. What are some of the solutions you think that could be implemented? Dennis, I see you're thinking to your mic.
I thinking with action. I was
You
about to
think
say
with
something, but thinking, yeah.
no, all right. But look, talking solutions, I know it's difficult because you know, the problems are just so massive. But, you know, I just want us to just reflect and what are some of the things that we could do ourselves?
All right.
I,
So
mhm.
you
Go
want to go
ahead,
ahead?
go ahead, Richie.
All right, no problem. So I don't think it's so difficult to talk solutions. I think we need more programs like Man to Man. I think that even starting from, I don't know what would be age appropriate, but primary or secondary school, boys need to be taught conflict management, which I think is extremely important. So a lot of people, just teach us in a strict sense the different educational subjects, but real life skills I think are lacking, and I think a lot of people need that, boys especially. I think the progressive minded males should mentor more. So I think we need mentorship programs, right, to really kick off. I think that would be extremely important. I think I am the kind of man I am today because I was exposed to some excellent mentors, and I don't know what I would have been else, otherwise. So yeah, I think that is what I have in mind
You have in
so
mind?
far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dennis,
Yeah. To begin with, right? I would say it's a inside it's an inside game. It's a you and you game. Because to be honest, right? If you let's say we get to the point of the national discussion, or we have that committee and men coming out day after day and venting, letting out, being vulnerable. When you go back home, you still have to deal with you. Eh? So I
yeah,
honestly feel like you need to, and I say in this right now because I am in this process. We need to quiet down ourselves as men and look within and just take time and go back. See what it is that we experience that is still hurting us that we don't deal with it. Or is it that, whether the blues you think that you got from your mother or your father unjustly, like we need to go back and deal with these traumas, face it. And while owning up to face it individually, you could seek out and reach out and get help. Because even going to the therapist probably need a therapist also, huh? So somehow it has to begin with you. It has to begin with you consciously saying like, yo, I'm ready to heal. This might be a real hard task, eh? Like I need to dig up
yeah,
some old bones,
oh,
like Eminem would say. You need to go back in the closet. But
yeah,
you need to face it for us to move forward. So it's an inside game with you individually, and then you can reach out your hand and ask for help and
and ask for help.
have that global, regional, national, international discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
So
just to let you know, I'm my therapist. I'm
oh
my therapist.
yeah. All right. So there we go.
So
Yeah.
we have that rapport. But Juice,
True. And
yeah,
more programs like this.
okay,
And
thank you.
this for yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Jude, just thinking, some of the concerns that you have as a man, what are some of the things you would like to see happen in Grenada with regards to dealing with men's issues on a practical
So
level, on a relatable
I
level?
think I think that as Richie said, more of the forums. We need to have more forums because I am sure that just by this small forum here that we had tonight, that each one of us can pick out aspects in ourselves that we need to work on. You know, so however small the change might be, it could be helpful to society. But
Yeah.
what I think is that men, we need to take a more forward approach in the home. You know, we need to mend our relationships, and especially with your baby mamas. You know what I mean? We need to take a more active role in the upbringing of our children, both men, both young men and young women, right? We need to see more fathers stepping up and more men being present in the home, right? Another thing, I think that we really need prison reform.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of men going into the prison and coming out worse than they went in.
Yeah.
I was privy to prison, right? And I can tell you that it's not a place where most men feel uncomfortable, right? There are not many programs up there for men who are willing to change. You know what I mean? Listen, there are a lot of guys who go up in prison, and when they come out, well, when they up there, they will go to the program, and because they might want to get a lesson of the sentence and whatever. And when they come back out, tell yourself, maybe in a year, maybe sometimes 6 months, they back up there. You know what I mean? We have a system where I saw 14-year-old and 13-year-old boys in prison. You know what I mean? 13-year-old and 14-year-old boys in prison. To me, and that's not for heinous crimes, right? That is because the system can't find a place to put them. So these young men put up in the prison and they become seasoned criminals. Because when they go up there, the guys on them who serving 20 years in life, they want them to come back.
You know, Jules, Richie, I'm sure you're passionate about prison reform. And also
Yes,
we need
I
to
am.
mention, and we also need to mention that the Grand Bacolet Rehabilitation Center also exists. So I hope it is
Well,
actually
that is
functioning.
what I was going to
Yes,
mention.
but
You know, so there's actually, you know, we have passed juvenile justice legislation, which seeks to protect youth, and part of that is the establishment of the Grand Bacolet Juvenile Institution quite a few years ago. So it's not supposed to be the case that 13 and 14-year-olds are going to prison. There's an institution that is specifically for juveniles. You know, there was one other point I wanted to make, but I think right. So concerning your previous question as to what can change, one thing I forgot is that as men, we have to learn to call out our brethren and other men more. True. So oftentimes you hear in barber talk shop, some men might say something that is absolutely problematic concerning women or against women, and a lot of people, kia, you know, it's just a joke, which just sort of normalizes the sort of behavior that the speech refers to. But I think sometimes as men, with the people as privileged in that space can say, nah, brethren, you know what I mean? I think you're on stupidness, you know? So I think that's more important. Yeah.
Richie, I could say that I am accustomed to being the one that everybody disagrees with. You know what I mean? I am accustomed with that because when I see craziness, I really like to call it out there. You know what I mean? And I have had a lot of that in barber shops already. You know what I mean? Sometimes I sit down and I'm the only person that shares a certain view. And I'm going against all the fads that men carry, you know what I mean? And I said, nah, listen, this is toxic. You know, don't carry on with that stupidness. You know? And one of the last things that I wanted to touch on, I think that we really need to have school reform. Sure. You know, we need to do a total revamping of our education system in Grenada to let young people, not just young men, but young men and women, young people, feel like they are part of the engine that makes this country run. We need to make them feel like that. You know what I mean? To me, the education system is anti-success and anti-creativity. Yep, you know, they kill your creativity from a young age. They train you to be skilled workers, you know, and not skilled entrepreneurs, not dreamers. Remember, everything that we enjoy in this modern time was derived from somebody who was a dreamer. So why now we're killing the dreams of our kids?
Yeah.
And
I think,
sad to eh?
go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say, sad to say that because a lot of our parents and a lot of us as new parents pass through that system, we continue the cycle in our home to kill our children's dream, grow them up being fearful to stand alone, making them fearful to be the odd one out. You know, creative people most times don't fit into normal social construct.
Okay.
You know, so we kill that because we as parents, we can't even understand that our children are creatives because our creativity was killed when we was 5 years old. So we're doing the same thing to our children.
Richie, you had some comments with regards to, you know.
Yeah, so I
what just
wanted
was
to
said.
add, I think one of the ways that schools feel our children is that they feel to really implement and properly deliver a program of age-appropriate sexuality education. I know that through the Caribbean, we have HFLE programs which teach that girls have ovaries and boys have testes, but which don't go into such important things as navigating problematic power dynamics between men and women, that domestic violence is never okay because you have some girls who believe if he beat me, he love me. You know, there are many things that I think comprehensive sexuality education could do that would make it better for men to be better men and women to be better women, because of course a lot of that program will be directed towards men too. You know, issues concerning domestic violence, you know, that sort of thing. So I would like to see that revamped.
As well. Dennis, just to indicate that, you know, we want to wrap up at 9:30. I think that was a wonderful conversation, but Dennis, I surely want to chime into to what Richie was saying.
Yeah, so based on what Richie and Juice was saying, I would really have to settle on the conclusion of education is really the awareness, and the education is really key. Because Colin, I remember clearly about 2 years ago, you and I had a conversation, and you were speaking about what is the importance of, okay, let's say agriculture. You say most people saying agriculture is the way, but if you teach people, I mean, having access to agriculture and you don't have the education as to how to, then agriculture is just, another lost cause. So it really boils back down to the education and the awareness around this conversation, and starting as early as, probably even in the womb. you know, yeah, starting as early as there.
I
And,
believe
and
I'm a
yeah,
believer of that education starts in the womb,
yeah,
and then it continues in the home, and then the other institutions as schools and stuff should support that, but the foundation should be led in the home
yeah,
and
for
in the
sure.
womb as well. Just to explain what I was saying with regards to agriculture, I was basically saying that it is a science and it should be treated as such.
True.
Farmers are scientists. Yeah, and they should be viewed like that because it's a science.
I
Not
did I
just,
did a live I did a live last year saying the same thing. Sorry to cut
well,
you.
like minds. No, it's okay. Like minds think alike. I'm not the originator of that thought. I'm just saying, it,
And
it's
it's actually agricultural science.
well,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah. There we go again. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
guys, I really appreciate it. I'll give each and everyone there the opportunity to give some final comments as we close. I would like to take the opportunity to thank our viewers in the comment section. We've gotten good feedback. Juice, Richie, Dennis. People have been basically saying that y'all need to tap yourselves on the shoulder for coming here in the safe space and being open and honest and vulnerable, and wanting to actually push that move for transformation, because change is linear, but transformation is dynamic. And that's what we want to see, transformation. So closing comments as we wrap up.
Yeah. So before we leave, I just want to say, Colin, very much thanks for having me here. You know what I mean? Talking with these two brilliant men, and you, another brilliant man. You know what I mean? I just want to say thanks, and just to say, people, you can go and look for me on Instagram and Facebook. You can follow me. We have a new page called Best Foods Grenada, Best Foods
Advertise.
GND. Yeah, Best Foods GND. Just go look for it on Instagram, and you know what I mean?
Juice, we had no shame. We had no shame.
No,
Juice.
bro. Look, I support you, bro. What it is, say the name again so they hear it. Say the name again. Say the name again.
Best Foods GND.
All right,
Best Foods GND.
GND. All right, Juice. Thank you so much. Richie, Dennis, closing comments.
Yeah, my profession doesn't allow me to advertise, so I can't make a plug like Juice
I
did.
know, right?
But I'd like to thank all the panelists. I really enjoyed this discussion. And to all the men who are either viewing or will view this program in the future, I just want to challenge you to be a better version of yourself. We
That's
really
right.
have some issues as men that we need to sort out.
That's right. That's right. Dennis.
All right, so I want to begin by saying, thank you very much, Colin, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure speaking, as in this really amazing group. It was really refreshing. It was enlightening. It had me thinking more. And to be honest, I saw all of us being vulnerable. And despite we didn't cry with the tears running down, all of us cried yesterday. And
Yeah.
this is great. So to all the men, all the boys, all the girls, all the women viewing in, just do what you could do where you at. If you need to pull up with your virgin or your coworker tomorrow and say, yo, brother, we need to talk. Because I seen some things that, I need to share with you because I have love for you. And I don't want to see you go down that road.
That's right.
Form those little groups and have those talks,
That's right.
If you are a young man and you have a father and you find you don't get that love, don't wait for him to come to you because you think he's the bigger one. Go to him and say, you know what, tap him on the shoulder, daddy. I just want to have a conversation.
Yes.
I didn't like how you handled this.
Yes.
Daddy will understand because daddy was once in your shoes and you're going to be in daddy's shoes sometime to come. So I just think we need to be real with ourselves. And have
honest.
these conversations more. And I really do hope this, I know this is going to go far and wide. Few good men, and let's just broaden the conversation.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So this has been a wonderful conversation. I saw that there was an important question in the group chat. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but definitely it's something that we'll get back to. From Ms. Hippolyte, she was asking why women who was abused, rejected, and abandoned by parents manage to leave the pains behind and give their children good lives, and men do not take their responsibility and leave that behind too. She's asking why, but definitely I think that
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
Okay, you want to just take a quick moment just to address that comment? I'll put it up on the screen before we wrap up.
I think there are a lot of damaged women who damage their children as well. I don't know what the ratio gendered breakdown might be, but I don't think it's a given that every woman or most women who have gone through extreme trauma are able to be good mothers. I don't think the evidence bears that out.
If that statement was true, they will never have the cliche that says there's nothing worse than a woman's scorn.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Don't go too further on that. I think that will make for an interesting conversation. The next, for our next program, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. In the comment section, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Share the live, like, subscribe. Please help this channel to grow because we do this out of love and passion. And we want to see transformation, and transformation starts with us being reflective and admitting that we're vulnerable and we need help. So therefore, once we help ourselves, we'll be able to help each other and we can grow. All right, guys, take care. Good night. Good night in the comment section. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, man, take care.
Bless everybody.